Wuhan will test all 11 million residents for COVID-19. 7 new infections have been detected there, breaking the Chinese city's year-long streak without local infections. Now, it joins a growing list of cities battling to contain the spread of the Delta variant.
COVID-19 has returned to ground zero of the pandemic. Makeshift tents and medical staff are back on the streets of Wuhan as mass testing is ordered for all the city's residents. The result? Supermarket shelves wiped clean as residents prepare for a potential lockdown. The outbreak in Nanjing has now spread to over 20 cities across more than a dozen provinces. 300 cases have been detected in just 10 days, forming China's biggest outbreak in months. Containment efforts have been ramped up all across the country. Residents in Yangzhou are the latest to join millions of people in lockdown. Transport links have been cut off and mass testing rolled out in major cities. Contact tracing efforts are also in overdrive. For more than a year, China successfully beat back the coronavirus with this formula. But the fast-spreading Delta variant is now challenging its zero-tolerance approach. It's also a test for Beijing's homegrown vaccines to find out whether they can hold up to the mutation. More than 1.6 billion doses have already been administered nationwide.
Olivia Seong joins us live now from Beijing for more on this story. Olivia, how have residents reacted to the latest containment measures?
Well, Wuhan residents that I have spoken to still clearly remember what the city had gone through last year at the peak of the pandemic. Remember that Wuhan back then had accounted for the bulk of the COVID-19 cases and deaths in China at the time. And so residents I've spoken to today with the announcement of the mass testing say they are calm, but they are taking this very seriously and they are doing what they can to follow the instructions of the authorities. Now, even though the number of cases that we are seeing today are a fraction of what we had seen at the peak of the outbreak last year in Wuhan, residents say they feel calm because authorities seem to have moved more swiftly this time, even though it was just 7 locally transmitted cases being announced. It is mass testing its 11 million population moving forward. And they say that there are more people now also wearing masks on the streets. This given that life had largely returned to normal here in China as the virus had been brought under control. There are also those who say that they have taken it upon themselves to cancel any trips or travel they had been planning out of Wuhan city. Now, I also spoke to people who are living in the area where COVID-19 cases had been found. The district, this zone has been currently sealed off and no cars, I'm told, are on the road, and residents say they have had to remain at home and not allowed to leave they have not been allowed to leave their residential compounds until they get back their COVID-19 test results. Here's what one resident had to tell me.
我们是今天凌晨4点钟接到的通知，通知我们全员需要去做核酸检测。那么我们现在已经全部都完成了。其实我听到武汉隔了1年再有确诊病例是出现在我们附近的，其实心情还好，因为武汉是作为最有实战经验的一个城市，我们并不担心，我们也觉得事情是不会继续严重下去。
Olivia, authorities clearly don't want to take any chances with this, but what steps are they taking to bring the latest outbreak under control now?
Well, overall, we've seen China revert to its old playbook. And here we're talking about mass testing, locking down of cities and residential communities. Authorities are also advising residents in many of the provinces not to travel unless absolutely necessary, because this is the peak travel period, it's the summer vacation period, and many had planned vacations with their families at this time of the year. We know that this outbreak began in Nanjing in Jiangsu province, and authorities have said that there have been loopholes identified that allowed a cleaner at the busy Nanjing airport to have been infected with the COVID-19 virus from a plane that had come in from Russia. Whereas also of concern is nearby Nanjing, Yangzhou city, which has seen now over 90 confirmed cases, and authorities say that a 64-year-old woman is now under police investigation because she had left her home in Nanjing that had been placed under lockdown to visit family in Yangzhou. And at that point in time in the city, she had visited restaurants and shops as well, and that had led to a flare-up in the number of cases in the city. Many of the cases, more than 60% of them, are also being linked to mahjong parlors in Yangzhou, and many of them involving seniors as well. And so that is of concern. We also see in Zhangjiajie town, which is a tourist town now, authorities are saying that residents and tourists are not being allowed to leave this town. And that's because many of the cases have been linked to Zhangjiajie, including here in Beijing, where we have seen railway authorities now say that they will not be selling tickets to and from 23 regional stations as they aim to stop trains from these areas to prevent a further spread of this very contagious Delta variant here in China.
Olivia, thank you very much for that update. Olivia Xiong there in Beijing.